What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Early Edge. I've got a smile on my face because I always try to have a smile on my face and maybe say hi to a stranger, say thank you, and just be positive in general. And I got to be honest, I'm really positive about the fact that golf is back. We're going to have golf betting on this show. The Early Wedge is coming back. I know a lot of you have been asking. The Early Wedge is coming back in just a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. But meanwhile, on SportsLine, on the Early Edge, we're going to have golf picks throughout the tournament. That means golf picks tomorrow as well. Speaking of picks, it was not a great day for us yesterday. A couple of really bad circumstances. I'll tell you with my pick, Providence, the best player on Providence got injured with 15 minutes left in the game. That's Bryce Hopkins. It looks like a pretty bad knee injury. I'm hoping he's back this season, but it didn't look great. So that was part of the reason we lost that one, but certainly no excuses here. It was just a bad day yesterday. We've had some really good recap screens, though, so have no fear. We will rebound. Likely today we'll rebound. And speaking of rebounds, because we're going to talk some NBA too, let's bring in the stars of the show. We've got a full cast here on a Thursday to talk golf, to talk basketball, to talk football. Proppy, Maestro, Buckets, and Mike McClure are here. We've got a ton of people in the chat. I'm sure all of you have already hit the like button, not just because you love us and you love this show, but because you're excited that golf is back too. Chris, I see you. I see you, Rick, Mark, Michael Klein, Big Cheesy's in here. I see a lot of people lamenting the Providence loss again. Bryce Hopkins going out with 15 minutes left in the game. That one hurt. Let's talk about some golf. So golf hasn't started yet because it's off in Hawaii. So we've got a couple marquee matchups to talk about. We're going to talk about the two big games in the NBA. But let's lead off with golf. For those of you that don't know, it doesn't start until 12:30, 12:45. So we have plenty of time. Let's bring up the first round leaderboard at BetMGM, though, because this might be hard for you to see. I'll tell you the odds that I'm going to be picking out here. I've got Xander Schauffele, Tom Kim, and Cameron Davis as first round leaders. I think we're looking at plus 2,000, plus 2,800, and plus 5,000 from the three of these guys. And Mike, I want to kick it to you here because, I don't know that you're huge in the first round leader market. A lot of people tend to avoid these bets. They kind of feel like first touchdown bets to some degree, a little gimmicky, but for whatever reason, I happen to hit these a lot. We just sprinkle a little bit on these. It's not one of those where you put a full unit or a half a unit or even a quarter of a unit necessarily. These are just kind of fun bets that we happen to hit every so often. Any of the three golfers that I mentioned, do you like from maybe a matchup standpoint or a tournament standpoint or even in the first round leader market?
Yeah, there's a few that I like seeing. I will say it's always interesting when you get to like a what we'll call a first tournament like this, coming off a little bit of an off season for a good portion of the field. You have to really start to think about certain things like that, where more so in the regular season, everyone's kind of in form or has no reason to not be in form. So that's something to think about there. But typically, I'm not betting as many first round leaders as you are. When I do, how I'm approaching a first round leader situation is I'm basically looking at my simulations that I share on SportsLine. I show percentages in terms of where I make the golfer, right? So I look for where I have edges on some of the longer shots, where I have edges on some of the guys a little bit further down the board. That's where I'm more likely to go back those edges. Those edges, they show up for a full tournament. It's a legitimate number, but it's still very difficult for a golfer to go capture a lot of that win equity. So I like to typically bet them, around that. And then you get into things like weather and tee times, things like that. That's going to matter a lot more at other events than this one in particular. But having said all that, there are a couple guys that I do like at the top. I like Colin Morikawa. I like Xander. A little further down, Cam Davis is someone that pops a lot for me. I will be looking to bet him either live or in a top 20 market over at BetMGM, where I think they have a friendly number on him. But I'm not betting a ton of first-round leaders like you are, Sia.
Yeah, that's fair. And for the record, later on in this show, I have a round one matchup for the Sentry, which again, we have plenty of time to bet. And I have a tournament matchup to give out under the official plays. And by the way, just so you know, Buckets has a soccer play to give out, and that's starting pretty soon too. We're not going to get to it right this second because we still have time, but Buckets, can you remind us your soccer play that you're going to give out in approximately 5 to 10 minutes? What time does that start today?
It'll be starting at 11 a.m. Sia. It is going to be one of the La Liga matches this afternoon or this morning, I guess, which is weird to say.
So dial that up on your sports book right now. Get your finger to the pulse and get ready to make that bet. The La Liga Is that the La Liga League? I'm so uninformed. Is that what you call it?
You'd call it the Spanish La Liga. So it's Spain's top flight of soccer.
All right. And before we move to the NBA, I do want to just offer some explanation for my first round leaders, which I honestly think you could play all in the outright. It sounds like Mike likes a lot of these guys too. My focus on this course was really approach play and putting, or at least the ability to grab a hot putter. And all of these guys qualify. And frankly, when it comes to course history, particularly Xander Schauffele and Tom Kim, look pretty good in that department too. Cameron Davis, a guy that's certainly up and coming, and at 50-1 as a first round leader, just so you know, those are the best odds you're going to grab really anywhere in the market. I checked all the books. You're not getting Cameron Davis any lower or any shorter than 40-1 at or any longer than 40-1 at any of the other books. So at BetMGM, first round leader Cameron Davis 50-1 definitely speaks to me there. All right. Let's get everybody else involved here. My apologies. I've had Proppy and Maestro on the sideline here no longer because we got to get to the NBA before we get to our official picks. These are the two marquee matchups in the NBA, and frankly, the only two matchups in the NBA. We've got the Bucks minus 9.5 at the Spurs. It's a 248.5 point total. This one starts at 7:40 Eastern Standard Time. Larry, I'm going to kick it to you first. We got the Bucks minus 9.5 here. It's a big spread, but it's the Spurs. Any leans in this one?
Yeah, definitely. Excuse me. Definitely leaning towards the Spurs here because it's second night of a back-to-back traveling for the Bucks. They're glad not to see the Pacers anymore. 4 of their 10 losses this season have come to Indiana, but the Spurs have actually played pretty well over the last 4 games. They've covered twice. They've been competitive, except when facing the Celtics. I think the Bucks win, but I would only look at the dog here.
All right, Proppy, any leans in this one, whether it be the total or the favorite?
Interesting matchup here, as Larry mentioned. Milwaukee on the second half of a back-to-back, having lost to Indianapolis last night, facing the Spurs team. Really not interested in winning basketball games. That being said, San Antonio does have a tremendous amount of talent, starting with the rookie phenom Victor Wembanyama. I think this is going to be a high-scoring, up-tempo game. I do wonder if the Bucks run out of gas in the second half a little bit and allow potentially a cover for the Spurs here. For me, it's an efficient line. If I had to choose one way or the other, I think that potentially San Antonio could cover late, but I just don't have a lot of confidence in them trying to win basketball games or even the starters playing in the fourth quarter if this is a double-digit lead with 5-6 minutes left.
And Proppy, would you say that might be a reason to avoid props on the Bucks side in this game if you're looking at overs? I mean, is that generally something you factor in when you're talking about taking overs on what name the superstar, but even some of the starters who kind of appear to be role players, they could be on the bench in the fourth quarter, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if we hear close to game time that Giannis doesn't end up suiting up or even potentially Dame ends up resting tonight. But yeah, I would definitely err on the side of caution here, both sides of the basketball, at least as far as overs are concerned in this matchup. But while both these teams are on the court, they're both going to be up tempo. I expect a lot of scoring. We know with Greg Popovich, he's very likely to rest someone or just not try and win this basketball game. Frankly, they're 5-28, I believe, and they want to collect as many ping pong balls as possible. And Milwaukee wants to get out of here unscathed with a victory, obviously.
Let me change gears real quick, Larry. I want to kick it to you because there's an important question in the chat from Sean Levine. I assume that's Avril Lavigne's brother, girlfriend, underrated song from 20 years back, maybe 25 years ago. Anyway, where's Avril now? I think she's still creating music. But the point is, sorry, I got sidetracked. Sean Levine says, and Larry, I'm going to direct it to you. How come golf picks don't show up on the site under the experts' picks? Any knowledge to drop there?
Yeah, the pick feed originally was just the 6 major sports and now starting to expand with NBA props, NFL props. Golf is in the pipeline. We want to be able to have the matchups in the pick feed like you see the picks for every, college basketball, NBA game. But right now, still only available in the analysis section. And Sia, I just wanted to tell you that I am blind tailing your first round leaders because I checked back in the first 3 months of last year, you were up like 70 units on those.
Yeah, it was an incredible run. And frankly, the year before, I had a stretch of 12 weeks where I had somehow managed to hit the first round leader in 6 of those 12 weeks. I mean, a record that will really never be replicated. I mean, a lot of that, let's be real, is a little bit of luck on my side there too. But somehow in the beginning of the seasons, like going through March, I just have a read on these kind of random, admittedly gimmicky bets. And I think that's why there's so many people that tweet at me. And by the way, Larry, to your point about, and to Sean's point about the pick feed, I usually do publish these, a lot of my picks. First of all, they'll be on the early wedge, which is coming back very soon. But usually I have an article that has picks. We got a little bit of a crossover here with football season, but expect in the analysis tab for me to have some of those picks. So while they're not under the expert feed per se, you can still go on the app. You can still click on analysis, click on the articles. They're not there for the Sentry, but I should have some picks up there soon. So you're going to get them on the early edge. You're going to get them on SportsLine, and you're going to get them on the early wedge as well. So don't worry. There's plenty of places to catch all of these picks, not just first round leaders. That's not where we make our money. We really make it in the matchup department, which I'm going to get to in a second. But before we do that, we got to get to the second NBA marquee matchup. The Nuggets are -2.5 at the Warriors. It's a 234.5 point total. This one's at 10:10 Eastern Standard Time. Proppy, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Are the Warriors in a position at home to maybe kind of bounce back off what's been a lackluster season and maybe put something out against a Nuggets team that should be feared by everybody?
I just don't have a lot of confidence in the Warriors at this stage compared to Denver, who admittedly are on cruise control. Despite being on cruise control, they're still 8-10 over their last 10 games. They've had some injuries, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. But yeah, Nikola Jokic, even when he's taking one shot in the first half, is still just playing tremendous basketball. I'm a lot more confident backing these Nuggets. The Warriors are still figuring things out, as great as Steph Curry is. The rest of the team, obviously, we know Draymond being suspended. Klay Thompson is on the decline. They're integrating young players into the rotation. Wiggins coming off of the bench. There's just a lot of unknowns here. I have a lot more confidence in Denver, who I expect to be up for this game, somewhat rested. I will take the Nuggets here at 2.5.
All right. And Jeff Stenberg in here, he says, Sia is great at making golf picks, but I saw his fantasy golf draft and it was middling. I actually don't even know what you're referring to. That's how many things I'm involved in. Maybe that was last year with Pat Mayo. That was not a good draft. I'll give you that. I don't do fantasy golf drafts. I barely do one and done. I do picks. That's what I do in golf, and that's what I'm very good at. Okay, Larry, in this game, I want the Warriors to be good. I really do. But I kind of lean with Proppy here on the Nuggets -2.5. Where's your lean?
I'm going to lean with the Warriors, and the market agrees with me. And this is coming down. It was 3. Now we're seeing 2.5. They did lose a couple of tight ones in Denver. The focus is going to be on Jokic and how much does he get to the line, because Steve Kerr complained about it last time, 18 trips to the foul line. He said it was disgusting basketball to watch. Jokic has made 30 straight free throws. So that's just something I'm going to keep my eye on tonight, but I lean the other way.
I see Bucket smiling in response to somebody in the chat. So I think that's great. All right. Yeah, that's interesting. I think this game's going to be interesting. Maybe there's a live bet opportunity in this one. If we see maybe the Warriors, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I just want to point out an interesting scheduling thing for the Warriors here. They played on Christmas Day on the road, but they've been back in the area at home since the 26th. This is a stretch of 7 home games in a row for them. Their next road game isn't until January 12th. So they will have been at home, sleeping at home for 2 full weeks. Could be exactly what that team needed. Big win they just picked up over Orlando, where they had a nice rest advantage going into that. So it is the front end of a back-to-back for both of these teams, by the way. They both do play tomorrow night.
Very interesting. And I was going to say, maybe if Golden State goes down early big, maybe it's a good time to take Golden State at a much better number, because we know Denver can get after you early. All right. Let's get to our official picks. But before we do that, where do you make all of these bets, our official bets that are coming up, and the NBA marquee matchups, or the first round leaders, where the market is really ripe at BetMGM specifically for some of these golf bets? BetMGM has all the action for every sports fan. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get a first bet offer up to $1,500. If your first bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets with bonus code EDGE1500. That's EDGE1500. All right, we got to finally get to that La Liga match that Buckets has been talking about. But before we do that, one quick message from our partners.
Out there are 2 colossal beings, both forces of nature in their own regard. But in here, as soon as the chute bursts open, the duality of man and beast begins to fade. This is the PBR on CBS Sports Network.
By the way, I've been so busy hogging the mic. I didn't even realize Mackenzie Brooks is in the chat talking inside the line. So first of all, ask her any question you want, because she'll be able to answer it. But don't forget, Inside the Lines is on this channel as well. She says, good morning, guys. Inside the Lines will be breaking down the college football championship with the model today. Bring your questions. Let's get some early value. Great advice. Make sure you are there for Inside the Lines later today. All right, Buckets. We got a game that's starting oh so soon. Talk to us about it.
All right, I wasn't ready for that. Give me a second to recover now. Well,
Sorry,
see,
super lame.
I'm a little bit nervous to talk about this Osasuna versus Almeria match because generally in La Liga, I don't like betting on any team that doesn't rhyme with Barona, but we're going to see if we can find some value here because I found a line that's frankly too good to ignore, even with a little bit of juice. I'm going with Osasuna over 1.5 team total at -130. And this is not giving credit to Osasuna. It's just a reminder to everyone about how bad Almeria is right now. Almeria does not deserve to be in La Liga. This is a team that 18 matches into the season has 5 points, has scored 19 goals, impressively enough, but has conceded a whopping 42 goals already 18 matches into their season. Almeria is also in a spot with relegation looming over them to where they can no longer play for draws. It doesn't do them any benefit to play for that 0-0 that we hate so much in the sport. They have to attack, which is just tough for them because Almeria has the worst counter-attacking defense in the league. And Osasuna's only bright spot this season is how good their counterattack has been. This game could definitely see both teams to score. I do think it sees over 2.5 goals, but there's no bet I love more than Osasuna over 1.5 team total on this one.
All right. Well, there you have it. This one starts in just 41 minutes. So you're going to want to get that bet in, and we'll have, this is so interesting because this actually goes really well into my golf bets. One for round one for the entire tournament. That's a 72-hole matchup, but we're going to have bets hopefully cashing throughout the morning. We've got buckets bets, of course, that starts at 11. We've got golf that starts at 12:30, so you can monitor those first round leaders. But I also have a round one matchup that I'm going to offer first. We're going to have round one. We're going with Sepp Straka -115 over Denny McCarthy. This isn't as much a fade on Denny McCarthy, although I think you can make an argument to fade him. He's a great putter. Everything else can be checkered with him. I just really like Sepp Straka's game. When I told you why I was picking certain first round leaders, I'll tell you, Sepp Straka was kind of on that list. The problem was at most markets, he was all the way down to 35-1. And honestly, I just didn't like those odds. I thought his first round leader market would be closer to 50-1. So I just laid off. But Sepp Straka is the type of golfer I want here. He's not a big name. He's not a brand name. He's not as big as Denny McCarthy from that name recognition standpoint, but he's dialed in on approach and he can get really hot with the putter. When that happens, he can not only be your first round leader, but he can certainly beat some of the top names. Denny McCarthy, not a top name. I think in round one, the way Sepp Straka played the fall swing this entire year and his ability to get hot on a course like this, absolutely love Sepp Straka over Denny McCarthy for round one. My tournament play, I'm going to Tom Kim. I like Tom Kim in the first round leader market. I like him kind of as an outright. He was 5th here last year, which is pretty good because I think it was his first time playing. Actually, I know it was his first time playing at the Sentry. I have him over Cam Young. Cam Young, I'm not exactly sure where his game is. He just got rid of Paul Tesori, his caddy, and his game last year was really up and down. And frankly, the advantage that Cam Young has over Tom Kim is off the tee. Well, there really is no advantage on this course off the tee because a lot of the balls, no matter how far you hit it, they end up in the same general collection area because we've got some downhill slope and undulation off the tee. So Cam Young doesn't have that advantage off the tee. Tom Kim has the advantage on approach, in my opinion, and with the putter. He can get nuclear hot with the putter. So give me Tom Kim over Cam Young. And I'll tell you, in some books, you'll see Tom Kim as at plus money over Ludwig Aberg or Aubert, as people like to say. Aubert is the new hot name, but I don't mind Tom Kim against a stalwart like that either. So really like Tom Kim in this tournament. I'm definitely pushing some of my chips in on him. Those are my two plays. Again, this second one is a tournament 72-hole matchup. The first one with Sepp Straka was just round one. All right. I gave you some golf. We've got a lot to go over still. We've got NBA. We've got more golf from Mike McClure, and we've got Larry's pick, which includes some NFL. But before we get there, let's hear a message from our partners.
The Scudetto, where the soul of Italy meets the pinnacle of calcio. Catch Serie A on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount+.
All right, we are back. We've got so many of our regulars in the chat. Ben Horner dropping knowledge as usual. And I think I caught something about Ben being a little under the weather. So everybody, if you could, because Ben is extremely diligent every single day. I mean, I think it's truly every single day. He's in this chat. He's dropping picks. He's been on this show before. You've seen him on this show before. Can everybody just type in "get well, Ben" or "feel better, Ben"? One of those two. Let's give him some some support because he's very valuable to this show. He's very valuable to you, and we want him to get better regardless of whether he's dropping picks in the chat or not. So get better, Ben. Thanks for being in here every single day. Really appreciate you. And that goes for everybody. I see you, Eric David, and Wesley and Bill, CID, John Parker. You guys are great. Thank you for always being in here. And obviously, I just missed about 500 names, but I can't name everybody. I got to go to Propstarz because we talked about this Spurs game. Well, it just so happens, Proppy, you've got a pick in this Spurs game. So the floor, my friend, is yours.
I do see and a little rookie named Victor Wembanyama might be hosting a block party tonight in San Antonio. If you've been following me in my NBA picks this season, you would know this has been my favorite bet. I've gone to the well over and over again, and it's been an extremely profitable angle for me. That's Wembanyama to go over 3.5 combined blocks and steals, aka stocks. Love this matchup for Wembanyama against Milwaukee. Both of these teams rank in the top 5 in pace of play. Extra possessions lead to extra opportunities. Wembanyama being 7'5" with an 8-foot wingspan, with elite instincts and timing and lateral quickness. He is a shot blocking machine. I believe one day, maybe in the not so distant future, in his sophomore season, we could see Wemby averaging 5 blocks per game, 2 steals. He is unreal. He has the best defensive attributes and instincts I've ever seen in a player in NBA history. We're getting a taste of that already this year as he averages over 3 blocks per game and a steal and makes it look honestly effortless, playing about 25 minutes per game. But this is just a fantastic matchup, as I mentioned, being an up-tempo game for Wemby. And if this game is competitive, he's going to play around 30, 32 minutes tonight as well. Either way, he's capable of racking this up in steals alone. He's capable of racking this up in blocks alone. And he's capable of racking this up in one rotation. He is that good on the defensive end. So, yeah, give me Wembanyama over 3.5 blocks and steals at plus money. This is just an automatic bet for me, regardless of the matchup. And this happens to be a very good one on paper.
Absolutely love it. I'll be dialed into that game. It's easy to watch when you only got 2 NBA games going on. And it's really cool because I'll be watching that. Well, let's see. That's the first of the 2 games. So that'll be going on while we'll still have primetime golf. By the way, Bradley, I know you were having trouble finding the Tom Kim. I think it was the round 1 matchup. I think that's over on DK, just so you know. Unfortunately, these books, specifically with golf, they sort of have different round 1 matchup selections. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're universal, sometimes they're different. That's where you can find that one. For those of you that asked me about Straka versus Russell Henley and Cameron Davis, I actually would stay away from those 2 because I think those 2, especially in a round 1 matchup, could get really hot. I actually like both of them in this tournament, so I don't think I'd be targeting them in a matchup, whether I like Sepp Straka or not. Speaking of golf, Mike McClure, you have a tournament matchup that you want to give to everybody. So now the floor is yours.
I'm on mute like buckets. Sorry, my bad. No, I like Colin Morikawa a lot this week. I think a lot of people like him. It makes a lot of sense why we would. But look, I think this is a good matchup for him against Max Homa. So I laid the -120 here. This is a full tournament matchup. I would play it in round 1 if you could find it in round 1. It does not exist at this current moment. So I am playing it for the full tournament, though. When we look at Morikawa, we know that this is a track that he has loved to play at, frankly. He's been very, very good here. He probably should have won this event last year. He really crumbled down the stretch in terms of the putting and was able to allow Jon Rahm to win that. But he fits every single metric here. You talked about some of the approach shots. That's what I'm looking at with Colin Morikawa here. The other thing I think we should talk about is his current form. He's actually been playing quite a bit of golf, and he's had a ton of success at several events that, again, had some pretty decent fields. When you look at the Hero World Challenge, he won the Zozo Championship. He's in great form right now. So I think this is a good time to continue to buy on him where we know he's played well before. The thing that's interesting here, though, he is putting a new driver in play for this event. He obviously has been working with it, feels comfortable about it. I've been reading a lot about it. He wanted to put it in play here because of the way the wind conditions can change. We're not expecting tons of wind, but things can change this close to sea level like this. So he likes the way he's able to spin the ball, but he likes the way he's able to control the height in certain situations. That's why he chose this week to put this driver in play. I think it's going to be a very good week for him. Certainly live to win the event. But I don't think this is the best fit in the world for Max Homa. I think he's a good, not great golfer. And I think he's going to get drowned out by some of the elite competition here, mostly being Colin Morikawa. So I'll lay the -120 here.
You know what, Mike? I was looking at this yesterday, and part of me almost thought it was a trap. Listen, I understand Max Homa is a good golfer, but this sets up so well. And I'm not saying it is a trap, but it sets up so well for Colin Morikawa that, like, would you agree with me? You would have made the price on this like -135 minimum.
Yeah, it's like -143 actually when I run the number on it. So yeah, the thing about Max Homa, and look, he is a fantastic golfer. He competes in a lot of great events. This just doesn't profile as one for me. But what he has done over the last 2 years, he's been insanely active on social media, and that has definitely had an impact on his perception. He is a household name now, but it's not really mapped to the on-course mapping to how relevant he's become in the world of social media. So I think that it's one of those situations where it's actually getting shaded 4 or 5 cents at sports books in these kind of situations.
Real quick, Mike, I think this is an important point, especially as it pertains to BetMGM. And we're going to get to Larry's picks in just a second. He's got a college basketball pick and an NFL prop. But BetMGM specifically, can you explain why it might be, for those that are betting in, let's say, the top 5, top 10, or top 20 market, can you explain why BetMGM actually has a distinct advantage in terms of taking those bets versus maybe some other sports book?
Yeah, so it'd be frustrating for people out there. You go bet someone, you follow in SportsLine, I give you a top 20 pick, and they finish T20, and you wonder why your winnings are cut down or cut in half in some instances. That is called dead heat scoring. BetMGM does not use that. BetMGM, for their finishing position markets, will actually pay in full. So that is sometimes why you will see slightly different numbers on those top 5, top 10, top 20 markets, but they will pay in full. So say you want to back someone like Cam Davis, so I know Sia likes as a first-round leader. I like him in a top 20 market this week. Pretty good price point over there. If he were to finish in a tie for 20th, which happens very, very, very frequently on the PGA Tour, they will pay in full over there. So that is something that BetMGM does that not sure of another sportsbook that is widely used that actually pays in full. Most everyone else is applying dead heat rules.
Absolutely. And by the way, for those of you that can't find the Sepp Straka one, I mean, it's pretty easy. You got to kind of get used to betting on golf, but you click on matchups, you click on round matchups, and it's literally right there. Starts at 1:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So again, not tournament matchups, not group matchups, not round 3 balls, round matchups. Round 1, round matchups. All right, check that out. All right, Larry. Sorry, I've kept you quiet too long. I love that you have diversified the portfolio here, because we've got college basketball tonight in the Big Ten. And then we've got an NFL prop that you're already rolling out. And I'll tell you this, I'll tell everybody this. I've got an NFL side that I'm going to put on SportsLine today, sometime this afternoon, that I really like. And it involves one of the Saturday games. And Larry, you have a prop in one of those Saturday games, but let's get to your college basketball first.
Yeah, tonight, Minnesota goes to Michigan. Michigan just lost at home to McNeese. They are having a lot of trouble defending right now. Tons of offensive talent. It does look like a nice bounce back spot. But you look at this Minnesota roster, they have 2 transfers in the backcourt, veteran guards. This is the same kind of team that won in Michigan a few years ago. You have the nation's assist leader in Elijah Hawkins. You have Mike Mitchell, who is drilling it from deep, 42%. And their leading scorer, Garcia, came back a couple games ago from his ankle injury. I just think this is going to be a tight game. I think both teams are going to score a lot. I think it's going to be a great game, something like, 81-78. But I'll take the points with Minnesota. And then Saturday, you got to love Mike Tomlin. They asked him, why are you going for it on 4th and 5 against the Seahawks instead of punting? And he said, scared money don't make money. And that is the attitude right now with Mason Rudolph. I think this guy got written off too soon, Mason Rudolph. He had injuries. I'm not saying he's a starting quarterback at this level, but his downfield accuracy has just been a total blessing for George Pickens. Look at this number, 52.5 receiving yards, and consider in the last 2 games, with Mason Rudolph, he's had an 86-yard catch, a 66-yard catch, a 44-yard catch, a 37-yard catch, and a 34-yard catch. He has 326 receiving yards, facing a Ravens secondary that likely will not play Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens. I believe all those guys are going to sit. They're all on the injury report, and they're starters. There's no reason to play them. I think the Steelers stay aggressive, and George Pickens goes over.
I absolutely love this pick. Larry, I know somebody 3 short weeks ago that was touting Mason Rudolph as actually a more legitimate quarterback. I think he was the only one in the industry saying this on shows like this as a legitimate starter, at least a replacement that actually could shine. The name of that person, Larry?
Who was it?
It was me.
All
It
right.
was me.
Oh, yeah.
It was me.
Oh, yeah.
I was the one touting Mason Rudolph. So good luck to him. I think I agree with you. Listen, it helps being buried on the sideline with an iPad, studying defenses and being able to identify what's going on pre-snap before you get onto the field. That's a message to Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. Not every quarterback that you draft right away needs to be in the game. Okay, I'm done with my editorial. At this point, we got to look at the recap screen. Let's look at all the picks we have. Again, we're trying to bounce back from yesterday, and we're going to start Osasuna. Team total over 1.5. This one starts in 27 minutes, minus 130. I've got a tournament matchup. Again, this is the full 72 holes, the full 4 rounds. Tom Kim over Cam Young, and I've got a round 1 matchup that starts around 1:30 today, Eastern Standard Time. Sepp Straka over Denny McCarthy. Mike McClure. Tournament matchup, Colin Morikawa over Max Homa. I absolutely love that one, and I'm absolutely tailing it. Propstarz, Victor Wembanyama over 3.5 steals and blocks at a plus number, and the Maestro, Minnesota plus 6.5. And we've got a prop, George Pickens over 52.5 receiving yards. This is going to be a day full of sports. Hopefully, full of cashing tickets. Hopefully, we've made your day full. Stay positive, stay smiling. Let's cash some tickets. On behalf of Jake the Snake, Mike McClure, Propstarz, the Maestro, and Buckets. This is the Early Edge. I am the counselor of cash, and we rest our case.